When Garfield came into hospital, he was 40 years old. He really had no medical problems. Garfield, before coming into hospital, would bench press 325 pounds. He came into pneumonia. He came into the ICU with pneumonia, and he had ARDS. He had a 10-day ICU length of stay. That's a pretty average length of stay for somebody with ARDS. He got standard sedatives. He got a narcotic. He got propofol. And interestingly, when he was on the floor, when he left, so he went from the ICU to the floor, and when he left the hospital, he was independent in all of his activities of daily living. So a big success story compared to some of the statistics that I showed. His length of stay in the ICU, as I said, was 10 days. His total hospital length of stay was only 13 days. So he got out of the ICU, was on the ward for 3 days, and then went home. No inpatient rehab. This seems like a success story. No home care, and was sort of instructed to follow up with his primary care doctor. So I think many of us that trained in the ICU would think that this is a fantastic save. This is the greatest success story. We had a young, healthy guy. He got really sick. We got him through this. He got to go home. But I think we also want to share sort of a patient perspective. So what I'm going to do, I guess, is first of all, ask Garfield, maybe talk a little bit about what your life was like before the ICU.
Well, I'm pretty nervous, so I'll try. I wasn't expecting this amount of people.
Neither was I.
I was working as a grocery store manager, and I'm married. I have 4 kids, and life was pretty good. I was going to the gym about 3 to 4 times a week, and that was pretty much it. And I kind of got sick for about 3 days. I was going to work and just kind of getting fever, getting chills, and I went to the hospital. They sent me home and said I had pneumonia. But I just wasn't getting well. So I went back to the hospital after 3 days. And they kept me in Union Memorial for about another 2 days, just kind of monitoring me. They said I had fluid on my lungs. So they sent me home that day after as well. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I just couldn't breathe. And my wife got up and, she drove me to the hospital. So when I got there, they gave me some oxygen. My oxygen levels probably were about 65. Yeah, they were going down pretty fast. And they took some more x-rays and realized that the fluid had also transferred from my left lung over to my right lung. So my lungs were beginning to fill up with fluid. After that, the oxygen wasn't working, so they put me on a CPAP machine. But it wasn't programmed to my body, so it was very difficult for me to breathe on that as well. And then from there, I got a chest tube put in the side. I had so much fluid built up, it had to be drained. So this is what I remember. And the last thing that I remember was that the machine wasn't working any longer because my oxygen levels had went down significantly again. So all I heard him say was time for him to be intubated, which I didn't know what that meant. But bear with me, I'm getting around. I'm still a little nervous, but
But you knew that wasn't good, I bet.
Not at all. So my mom was on my side. She had got to the hospital and she was on my side, and I kind of grabbed her hand and I told her I love her, and whatever happens, just I'll see you on the other side. I didn't know what was going to happen from there. So I woke up and I had tubes, in my chest. Down my throat and everything, and I was on a machine. So that's pretty much what happened from there.
So when I saw Garfield, he wasn't at my hospital. He's at a different hospital, but I went to see him for my research study, and spoke with his wife. And said, we would very much like your husband to be part of our research study. So I had the opportunity to travel a little distance and see Garfield. And the day that I saw Garfield, he was laying in bed and sort of doing. So what do you actually remember about being in the ICU?
It was kind of difficult, you know, just kind of sitting still and having all these tubes and stuff down your throat, and you have to ask one of the techs to come and, you know, clean you out because you constantly feel like phlegm is coming up and your throat needs to be cleaned out or whatever. So I remember situations like that, and I remember it just seems like that I had kind of difficult dreams or deliria, and it was a lot of different kind of dreams I would dream. I would see like blood circles. In my dreams, I would see kids running around with animal heads. I don't want to be too drastic in what I'm about to say, but I even felt like we got adults in here, like someone had, you know, clipped my penis off. And I felt all this stuff, man. I thought it was real. And it was just kind of difficult going through that in your mind and no one in there kind of understand, and they think I'm telling them these things and they looking at me like I'm crazy. So for me, it was getting kind of frustrated.
Had you ever had anything like that before, as far as thinking your penis was cut off, seeing circles of blood, kids with animal heads?
No, never in my life. I've never, you know, taken drugs like that, and other than probably smoking some pot when I was a teenager. Just being real, but for the most part. But for the most part, you know, some beer, some wine, you know, other than that, and that's why I thought this was kind of crazy for me to be feeling like this, because I've never seen anything like this in my life, in my mind. And, you know, I didn't think I would ever recover from that. You know, I'm telling my wife and I'm telling my loved ones what I'm seeing, and, you know, I'm thinking somebody's trying to kill me in the hospital. And, you know, my mom's like, write it down on the paper, you know, what's going on. There was one incident where, you know, the family was all around, and I'm trying to tell them, like, somebody's trying to kill me, you know, and he was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, when you weren't here, you know, they weren't paying me any attention. They were just sitting here letting me die, you know, whatever. And she's like, well, mom's goes and walks to the staff and like, is there any truth to this? And they're like, no, we've been here the whole time. And for some reason, I even thought I was in another medical facility than the one I actually came to. I thought I was somewhere in PG County. Don't ask me why. That's another county in the state of Maryland. But I thought I was somewhat there in another county, but I wasn't. I asked the guy, I said, what hospital am I in? He said, you're in Baltimore. I said, am I? He's like, yeah. So that's pretty much how that went.
So how do you think you interacted with the hospital staff from what you can remember?
It was a transition, trying to trust, you know, in that state of mind I was in at the time, trying to trust. And I had one of the housekeeping guys there. He would come and, you know, clean the trash out and everything. He would talk to me, you know, and he probably didn't believe what I was saying, but he would come and sit and talk to me, you know, for the 5 to 10 minutes that he was actually in the room. So they said I was pretty difficult to handle at the time, knowing, you know, me being intubated or whatever. The fighting you were talking about, I just thought people were trying to do things to me at the time in my mind, you know, but, and just trying to defend myself. I didn't know what was going on. So, you know, these were a lot of things that actually transpired in my mind at the time.
And I can bet when you bench pressed 325 pounds that the nurses were more scared of you than you were of them. But that may be hard to believe.
Yeah, that was the case. My mom, you know, she let me know afterwards, you know, some of the things that had occurred while I was there. You know, she said, you were a lot to handle. You know, the medical staff at the time, you know, just felt like they didn't understand what you were going through at the time. And, you know, after meeting you and Dr. Bienvenu, these were some of the things that I found out were consistent with other patients that had been in the ICU and had been through some of the things that I had been through. So for me, it started to kind of bring some some familiarity, that it's okay, start to settle down a little bit because it's not just you. It wasn't just you. It's other people as well that has gone through this process.
So I get to be Oprah and you get to be Dr. Phil. But because it's my talk show, I get to dominate, okay? I want you to provide one comment, Joe. For what Garfield's telling us, in your experience with actually seeing patients and your experience with reading all the literature, is this unusual? Okay, so Joe said, this is very common. There's many common themes, and this isn't just Garfield. I asked Garfield to come, though, because he's very articulate, as you know, and clearly, sometimes I have people say to me around the muscle weakness part of it that, well, your patients were all weak before they came into the ICU, and we know that's not the case.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So I don't want to, I know that it's a kind of a delicate topic, but if you'd let me, I want to ask a little bit more about the penis being cut off.
Ask me whatever you want.
So we've had this conversation before, so I think I know what, well, maybe I know what Garfield's going to say.
Wait a minute now.
So I think, if I remember right, you believed while you're in the ICU that there's something you could have done to fix this problem with the penis that was gone.
Yeah, someone thought that someone presented a financial package to me to say, well, if you give me $500, I'll get it put back on.
And as you began to wake up and your arms weren't restrained, I also remember you telling me that you needed to decide if this was true or not.
Yeah, I did. I hadn't looked yet. It was about, I guess maybe about 7, 8 days had gone by, and I still hadn't looked, and I'm just like, I need to figure this out. So, I had told the nurse, can she leave out for a minute? She said, well, why? I said, I need to take a look at myself. So she goes, it's okay, you can go ahead. So I finally went and looked, and I realized that I had a catheter put in. And maybe that was what had actually happened at the time. But by me being in a state of delirium, from being intubated or whatever, I just kind of felt something else had actually occurred. So.
And what was it like once you actually got home?
Very weak, 50 pounds lighter than I am right now. I dropped weight very fast. Over the 3-week stay I was in the hospital. Couldn't stand up when I got upstairs to the bed. So I got some rehab after a few days. Just to correct you a little bit, I was up there for another week after I got out of the ICU. So I finally got to walk, but it took a few days and a few attempts because my muscles were just shot from not being used over the course, over those 2 weeks downstairs. And I didn't think it was possible after using your legs for 39 years and not to use them for 2 weeks, that you wouldn't be able to be as mobile as you were. So after going out and finally getting out in the hallway and walking, I finally was released to go home after a few days. But I was very significantly tired and just worn out and weak. I couldn't walk no more than maybe 3 to 4. I live on a street where we have row homes, so I could probably walk about the length of maybe 2 row homes and I would be exhausted. But I did get physical therapists that would come, and she would come and work with me, and we would do as much as I can. But, I started pushing her to try to push myself, and I would try to do more than she would actually want me to do. But that was just me having, grown up in a sports culture, and I'm kind of competitive, and just kind of want to push myself back and want to go further. But I really couldn't do as much as I wanted to do at the time because my body wouldn't just allow it. So, you know, with that, I also had, you know, the mental issues because, you know, this process of near death was a situation where now I have to deal with always wondering if I'm going to get sick, and now what's going to happen after that. So, you know, I was home for maybe a month, and I caught a cold, and I mean, I lost it. I mean, I'm back in the ICU, not the ICU, but I'm back in the emergency room. You know, I forced my wife to take me because mentally I'm thinking I'm going through this all over again. And I went through this process maybe about 3 to 4 times before I got out. The last emergency room visit, maybe in October. I got released in June, and I think the last visit was maybe in October. And, you know, my wife said, maybe you need to call Dr. Needham. And, you know, she said, well, you know, I did put you in the study or whatever. So I had his assistant, Melissa's number, and she had called me on my way home from my last ER visit, which was nothing wrong with me at the time, but in my mind, I'm going through this process all over again. And, you know, she said, won't you come in? You know, she talked to me for about maybe an hour and just kind of walked me through that. You know, there are a lot of things that you're feeling that, you know, Dr. Anita said a lot of other patients have felt as well and have gone through a lot of the things that you're going through as well. So, you know, that was the biggest thing of getting over the mental aspect of being able to do some of the things that I have done before and my limitations in not being able to do them.
Tell me about, I remember you talking to me about filling out a form for one of your kids for school.
Yeah, just kind of my mind being organized. You know, I had, you know, been a grocery manager for years, and, you know, a lot of my you know, issues and things I had to do with work are geared around paperwork and, you know, meeting deadlines and stuff like that. And, you know, I do meetings and I hold different kind of, you know, seminars at work when we got different vendors coming in, and, you know, I'll do different presentations. But the thing of it is that it was time for me to register my kid for school, and it was just taking me forever to do an application that would probably take me roughly 20 minutes at the most. Then I would kind of have to sit down, and I'm like, I'm looking at one line, and I get one line done, and I just can't figure out why I can't get it done. And I would leave it away and come back to it maybe, you know, 15 minutes later and try to do it again, and I just couldn't get through it. You know, I had to get my wife to come and help me out. And never had this ever happened to me before, you know, in the hospital. You know, I was sitting and talk to her and say, is something wrong with me? You know, and she was like, I don't know, maybe, you know, again, just trying to redirect me to understand that maybe it was some of the things that I've gone through, you know, from being in the hospital. So.
And what happened to your grocery store job?
It went away. I wasn't able to carry out, you know, my job performance wasn't up to par when it was time for me to go back to work. I couldn't be on my feet 24/7, monitor what's going on, keep up with the speed of the job at the time any longer. It was just too much for me at the time. So, you know, I had to kind of give that up and take a lesser job with the company. So,
how long were you off work?
For a year. Yeah, I was off work for a year. And took a lot of time to, you know, invest in myself again, just trying to figure out, you know, am I going to ever be back normal in the way I was before? And it just kind of gets to you when you're the kind of person that used to constantly maybe finishing and doing maybe 8 tasks a day that you may write down. Hey, I got these 8 things I need to get done throughout the day, and you only can finish 3. And you're kind of wondering why I can't get around to doing these things. And this is pretty much the kind of guy I was before I went in the hospital. You know, I could go to work, go to the gym, you know, come home, help my kid with his homework, answer some emails, and kind of keep it moving. But I couldn't wrap my head around it anymore to get it done like that. So it was taking me a long time to kind of get back on that path again. And, you know, I was kind of wondering why. But we've been coming along a little better lately, though.
But are there other things, important things that I haven't asked you about that you think, are important or that people in the audience should know?
I think just with someone going through different things in the ICU, it has to become an important, the message just has to be brought home that listen to the people that are there. Really pay attention because, they may not know what they're saying, but it's something that they're trying to say. It's something going on. They may not know what they're saying, but it's something they're trying to get through that, hey, something's going on, I really don't know why. I don't know what it is, but evidently it affected me in some sort of kind of way. And it's taken, I'm coming into my second year where it's taken to get my life back on track the way it has been. Now, I'm not expecting it to be what it was, but it is getting there over time. But that's my main thing, is that it has to be some attention paid to some of the patients in there because they're trying to get something across to you, but just don't know how to get it across.